The following program is presented by the HTM Podcast Network.
Welcome to another episode of Turnbuckle Talk in partnership with thechairshot.com, presented by the Hitting the Marks Podcast Network and in association with NDPW.com. Turnbuckle Talk is sponsored by collarandelbowbrand.com, where you get 10% off when using promo code JKPodcast. Turnbuckle Talk is also partnered with Phoenix at FNXFit.com, where you get 15% off all your health supplements simply by using promo code TBTalkPod. Follow the show on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter by searching at TB Talk Pod. Listen on Podbean, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere you catch your favorite programs. And now, pro wrestling fanatics, are you ready? Here are your hosts, Mighty Joe Morin and Karl Karufel.
That's right, everybody. Another episode coming at you. I am Karl Karufel alongside the curator of topics, Mighty Joe Morin, and this is Turnbuckle Talk.
Yeah, man, it's good to be back here, as always, to talk some professional wrestling. But before we get to our discussions here, Karl, I think we're done with winter, I think, here in Canada. We're getting close, at least.
I think we definitely are here as well. The last few days have been gorgeous out. Today, not so much. It is a little doom gloom out there with some scattered rain, but it's okay because I've got a vidcast. I've got my Dr. Pepper. No sponsors. And I've got a bottle of water just in case. So I mean, it's a good day, man. It's a good day.
Yeah, for sure. You know, we didn't have much of a winter here in Southern Ontario, but I mean, we did get some snow, but it felt long, but it wasn't that intense. But like I've said before, as an adult, I am not quite a fan of winter, so it's nice to be getting back to some nicer weather, to be able to go out without having to put on multiple layers of clothing on. I know that's going to sound a little weird to people that don't live in the climate that we live in, but we got to kind of bundle up during those months. So looking forward to not having to do that anymore. But anyways, to get to some pro wrestling discussion here, I guess we'll kick off with, I'm actually wearing the shirt, so we'll get right into it. The host for WrestleMaina, we're looking at Hulk Hogan and Titus O'Neil, Karl. This is, we were talking about this before we hit the live record button here, Karl, but this is a rib on Hogan, right? It's got to be at this point, right? An inside joke, maybe more?
Yeah, you know what? Like I said, I mean, this is 100% an inside rib on Hogan. It has to be. Like seriously, how like? This is full on 100% inside rib that not a lot of people would get or understand on Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, for sure. I'll say just because I mean Terry. Spoiler alert, his actual name is Terry Bollea. I mean, I think we peeled the curtain back on that before, that's no secret. But hopefully, he remembers where he's at and remembers to not say certain words. That's all I'll say about it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, it's not... I mean, there's a few ways to kind of approach this here. I mean, obviously, it shouldn't damage you having the biggest name in professional wrestling hosting your show, but I mean we have had some issues. I mean, he's not necessarily the most popular guy with a lot of the newer talent. There is that as well, right? So I guess they figure that there's enough that is good here that can override some of the negative. It's one of those things where, I mean, even if there's like a potential for some issues, I mean, if I was kind of running things, I'm like, why even go there and even risk having a problem? Just use somebody else. I mean, yeah, I know Hogan is still the biggest name in the business, but even if there's a potential for issues, like just why even go there, right? That's what I'm thinking.
I mean, unfortunately, it's live television when all of this happens, right? So there could be issues with anybody. It could be The Rock.
Yeah.
right? And there would be issues. It could be Stone Cold that's hosting, and there could be issues. So, I mean, it's no matter who you choose, there could be issues. Should they have taken and used somebody else? I think they should have just let Titus O'Neil have the entire thing. I would have been fine with that. But do we have any idea? Are they both going to be like, are they co-hosting, or is it going to be one is one night, one's the next night? What's happening with it? I haven't heard anything yet. Have you?
See, that's actually a great question, because I mean, if I, again, if I'm the guy setting this up here, I would definitely have them hosting separate nights together. Just like I said, there's just too much of a risk of Terry saying the wrong thing. I would rather just see Hogan maybe do night one, and then Titus, maybe we get slapstick comedy, Titus O'Neil, diving on the way to the ring, just maybe do some comedy. I mean, I would be cool with that, but just having them together, I think it just would make for a really weird dynamic. Or maybe that's just me.
No, I think it definitely would make for a weird dynamic. I do have another question here for you, though.
Yep.
So now you say have Hogan on night one, Titus on night two, or vice versa, whichever. Now, is that going to sway your decision on watching either night?
Problem. It could.
Right?
And having said that, too, just as a brief update, because, I mean, even as of last week's recording, we only knew two. I think there was potentially a third match kind of set. And again, we're doing 2 nights with the stuff. And just taking a brief look, we're only up to 4 matches now. This is encompassing everything, right? We've got Roman versus Edge, and I mean, that could potentially change. I've heard word that it might be changing to a triple threat with Bryan in it, which I don't want to see in this particular case. Sasha versus Bianca Belair, which we already knew. Lashley versus McIntyre, which looks like it's set now. I think a lot of us were hoping that it was going to potentially be Bobby versus Brock Lesnar. That appears to not be on the table. Our friend Michael Jericho is very disappointed. He literally took an entire week off of work going off of that information, and it is not happening. So single tier for Michael Jericho, and the New Day versus AJ and Omos. That's all we know, and we're looking. We're as of right now. If you're watching or listening to this, it is March 22nd, and the show is April 10th and 11th, and we only know 4 matches still. And this is still, and this is coming out of Fastlane.
3 weeks out.
Yep.
Coming out of
Crazy,
Fastlane,
man.
This is the go-home pay-per-view for WrestleMania. 3 weeks away, and we have 4 matches to encompass 2 nights of WrestleMania.
Yeah. Rough.
What?
Let me ask you a theoretical question here, Karl. If you are a potential ticket buyer right now, with tickets going upwards of $2,500 American, is there anything on this card so far that makes you say, yes, I want to buy a ticket to the show?
Nope.
There you go, folks. And I feel the same. And I feel the same way.
Yeah, I mean,
it's
there's
sad.
just not enough
It's
build.
sad. Yeah.
Yeah, there's not enough build for this right now.
Yep.
I mean, I want to know what's happening, what's going on, who's going to be there, stuff like that, right? Like that's 100% what I want to know for a professional wrestling event. Now you take in something like, okay, so I'm a rock and metal fan. Okay, so I've been to a few Rock on the Ranges. I was actually at the 10th anniversary of Rock on the Range, which was amazing. I went there not knowing and got tickets, not knowing the entire lineup.
Yeah.
I knew of about 10 acts that were going to be there out of about 40. And I was okay with that because I know no matter what, it's going to be good. Right? Right now, I'm looking at this going, I don't know if this is going to be good because there's no build up to who could even possibly be there to make it good.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Now, the other thing to consider with this, too, and I could see some people thinking this way, but again, I feel a little bit differently. This past week, I was on Destino with Michael Jargo talking about the New Japan Cup, which we'll get talking to a little bit that later in the show as well. But we also touched briefly on the WWE, and very surprisingly so, Jargo kind of defending WWE and giving them a pass on this because with COVID, they're not sure what talents they're going to have. To be perfectly honest with you, and not to just go blatantly against what he said, but I think that we're using COVID as a cop-out to say, oh, well, we can't come up with anything because it's COVID. We're not sure we're going to get. You have a tremendous pool of talent to pick from. By now, you should have something in place. Coming out of the Royal Rumble, we should know 3/4, if not more, of the matches going into it. I think that we're using this pandemic as a crutch to be lazy with our creative. That's my opinion.
You know what? I think so as well. I mean, given the talent that they have and the amount of work, I mean, you're putting on a 3-hour program every Monday. You're putting on a 2-hour program on Fridays. Yep. You're putting out a 2-hour program on Wednesdays with NXT. Combining all of the talent that you would see on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, You're telling me that you can only have 4 matches available for us right now? That you couldn't have built something up over since the Royal Rumble, since January? There's no way that you could have built something up since January with talent and stars over 3 shows with over 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours of programming that you're putting out every week where there's storyline that's happening there. You haven't been able to figure something out. Bullshit.
Right. And we're localized in Florida, too, so we have all of the, not only your Raw and SmackDown rosters, we have all of the NXT guys that you could be bringing up to showcase. I mean, they haven't even announced an Andre the Giant Battle Royal. Which which I'm hoping if they, I mean, obviously they're likely going to do it, just no matter what night that they pick. But I mean, that'd be a chance to showcase all of those NXT guys to give them a chance to shine on the grandest stage of them all. Apparently, what WrestleMania apparently still is. Right. But again, Karl, I mean, and we discussed this, I believe, on last week's episode as well. Is that we're of the mindset that people are going to watch because it's WrestleMania. We at the top in this company, we're still feeling that WrestleMania still has this cachet. It still has this big meaning. It's been really diluted over the last few years, and people aren't just going to automatically. The people that already have the network are likely to tune in, but from the outside looking in, looking at this lineup, again, there's nothing to go. Hey, I want to plop down $60 to $80 Canadian, potentially. I don't know exactly what the exchange is right now, but it's weird, man. And it's becoming the norm, which is very disappointing because this should be the biggest show of the year for this company, and it's not setting up to be that. It's a damn shame.
It definitely is. I just want to let everyone that is watching know that you can comment on anything that you hear,
especially about
while
this
we're
topic.
talking. And we definitely have the option to put your comment up on the screen for everyone to see. So definitely get involved with us as we are talking and going through our topics today. Please engage with us. Yep. We love it when you guys are engaging with us. So make sure you do and have your say on Turnbuckle Talk.
Yeah, because it's a big topic. And even as we go further on here, just if you guys post in the comments how you feel about WrestleMania, and we'll definitely touch on it, even if we are further in the show. Put your opinions out there, and we will more than likely talk about it as well. All right, Karl, let's move on from some WWE discussion here to... I guess we're going to be kind of potentially in the minority with this here, Karl. I know that you watched Fastlane. I did not watch Fastlane. I instead chose to watch the show that at least, especially one match in this show here that really kind of hooked me in, and it was the most intriguing thing for the weekend for me. NWA Back for the Attack. Finally, the NWA Back. This was pretty cool, Karl. Just overall kind of thoughts before we break down some of the matches here.
My thoughts are I am tired because I stayed up until 4:30 in the morning, bless you, to watch both NWA Back for the Attack and WWE Fastlane last night. I had to take a couple of breaks in between because I was just like, oh my goodness, I need to, maybe grab another Dr. Pepper, grab a bottle of water and slam that super quick and just kind of give myself a little perk and wake up. But I definitely saw both NWA Back for the Attack. If this is what they're going to be giving us on a weekly basis, I will 100% spend the $5 American a month to watch this on Fight TV. 100%.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you are. I'm hoping that they can maybe venture outside of Fight to maybe have like their own kind of little service, which I'm kind of hoping for, and I would definitely pay upwards to $10. Even if they want to charge $10 a month, I'd be perfectly cool with that because I'm definitely a fan of the product. Still, just a brief update because we have touched on it before with them deleting all of the Power episodes and all that stuff off of YouTube. I'm still a little puzzled, a little perplexed about the choice, and nothing's been really explained or they haven't told us what they plan on doing with all that content. So I'm a little concerned that is just going to evaporate into the ether and we'll never see it again. I hope that I'm wrong. At the very least, I'd like to see them, bring back or find some other way to, especially like the Crockett Cup, the 70th anniversary show, despite its flaws, to still have that, because it'd be a shame to lose all that content because there was a lot of good stuff there. So I'm hoping that they'll find a way to bring that back, whether it be in some form of streaming service. If it has to be through a Fight, so be it. I would prefer it not to be. I mean, obviously, I don't see them getting like a big cable deal at any point. Right now, it's just not in the cards. But yeah, having said that, going into the show, it was interesting because this was built largely around essentially being a tribute show to Mr. Joseph Hudson. And we started off with some very heartfelt words from specifically, mainly an Aaron Stevens, who very rarely gets emotional like this. It was quite something to see.
It definitely was. And I mean, anyone that has seen what Aaron Stevens has done before, Damian Sandow in the WWE, he's got that talk. He's got that real good availability for talking. And he was really choked up through this entire thing. You could really tell that he was choked up. When it came match time, which we'll definitely get into, he was spot on. He was the professional. He was right there for the matchup. Yep. But this little thing that they pre-taped before, man, like pull at the heartstrings like you wouldn't believe. And just to see the emotion, raw emotion coming from him, it's something that we don't see ever. We've never seen that before. And to see that was wow.
Yeah, it was quite something. It felt very old-fashioned isn't the word. Just the way that NWA does their little packages and their promos is absolutely fantastic. And just being somebody who has a real appreciation for a lot of the traditions in professional wrestling, it's just even the way that sometimes it was kind of like a film grain, and it's like things are shot kind of in low quality, almost kind of on purpose. I popped pretty hard for that kind of stuff, and just I thought they did a really good job. And it was a nice thing to start the show off. Just not a lot of glitz and glamour, just that, and then we got right into the action right after that, which was very cool. Having said that, the first matchup, and I will say that. A lot of these names I'm not that familiar with, and
we touched on that last week.
Yep. Yeah. And having said that, for me, it's not a negative. I think sometimes with a lot of these wrestling matches, especially with WWE, because we're so familiar with the talent, that I find myself really dissecting and overanalyzing things too much. On this, I was able to just kind of sit back and just kind of watch, not having any kind of preconceived notions about any of these talents whatsoever, right? So we started off with Slice Boogie, Crimson, Jack Stain, and Jordan Clearwater in a 4-way match. And this was it's one of these things that was a relatively short match, but pretty cool. A nice kind of ease into the start of the show. I love the way, and of course, I love the way that this was booked. The order of the matches, perfect.
Yes. Yes, definitely. All of that was perfect. Yeah, I mean, this matchup itself, it was good.
Yeah.
There was nothing wrong with it. I mean, to have three names that I'm not familiar with and one name that I am familiar with, right? And it's so Crimson is the name that I'm familiar with. And it's not even as though Crimson took the spotlight in this matchup.
Yep.
He was that veteran professional that said, I will lend my name to this, no problem. And then let these guys shine.
Yep.
Wow, what a freaking concept.
Right.
Use a guy who's willing to allow himself to be used as a shining beacon for new talent. What?
What a concept. What a concept, dude.
Oh, so happy about that.
Yep.
So happy. And I'm glad as well that the win didn't go to Crimson. I'm happy about that.
Yeah, because, I mean, as you mentioned, kind of the experienced guy in the match, he definitely could have taken the spotlight if he wanted to, and instead chose to elevate the other talent, which is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
People probably best know him from his work in TNA and Impact, I guess, which is probably where you Karl, know him best from, and other people
known as Crimson.
Yeah. So just a great kickoff match. You know, it wasn't anything spectacular, but just accomplished what it needed to be the first kickoff match for the show. Next, well, you know, in between here, Karl, this is something I want to make note, because as with most wrestling shows, Karl, no wrestling show is perfect, and this show is no exception. NWA is still having a little bit of... Again, this is something that some other people may not be picking up. As somebody who edits audio on a weekly basis multiple times a week, I have I guess maybe a hyper sense for this kind of stuff. Audio levels all over the place when it comes to crowd, when it comes to the ring, the commentary, the interviewers. It's just not consistent, right? But that's something they can iron out over time. So I don't want to give them too much hate over that, but one thing that I will mention that was very, very odd and stuck out to me like a sore thumb here, Karl, was the interviewer between the matches here, Mae Valentine. This one it wasn't something that rubbed me the wrong way. It was just odd. Have you ever come across somebody in real life, Karl, that is almost like pretending to have like a fake foreign accent? That's what the feeling I got from this. It was very, very strange, because I've heard her talk and other things, and she doesn't sound like this. So it felt very strange, and you could tell that she was either nervous or inexperienced in this context as well. Like being a pro wrestling interviewer, not necessarily her forte. Not that I don't want to see her again, but I think they could use somebody better in the spot.
I think they definitely need to work with her 100%. I mean, she can definitely get there. I don't want to say that she can't be, but she definitely can get there with the proper tools and training. Yeah. Yes, 100%.
For sure. Yeah.
But yeah, like just really nervous and awkward it was.
Yeah. Well, borderline cringeworthy, but I don't want to totally bear it.
And that was through the entire show.
Yeah. Through the entire show. Yeah. So, I mean... willing to give anybody a chance, but I mean, if it continues to be that way, I would maybe look at potentially somebody else. Just saying. Next up here, Karl, for the NWA World Television Championship, Elijah Burke, or the Pope, versus Tom Latimer, which I guess people will be more familiar with him as Bram. I know he's somewhat of a polarizing individual, but opinions aside, this was an interesting matchup here, Karl. I'm not sure how I feel about the draw. Coming out of this, though, I mean, I thought that they did a great match, but not having a clear winner. I mean, it's I don't hate it, but it felt a little. I guess I'm just not used to it.
Yeah, I honestly don't think you're used to it. That's the thing. There's time limits on these matches. There on all of them. There's time limits on them, and I think that this here was a good way for it to go to the draw without a decisive winner, because the two guys put on a really good show.
Yep.
They did great work inside that ring.
Yep.
So I want to see that again.
For sure.
And what a better way for us to be able to get that than to have this go to a draw. And you could see that Bram, or he was clearly Tom Latimer. He was clearly, upset over this.
Oh, yeah.
And you could see the Pope was upset over this too.
Yep.
Both of them were like, are you kidding me? Like, how do we not have a clear winner here?
Yep.
Right? So just because of that, because of the emotion that the two of them had inside that ring at that time, you can tell right there it's leading up to another matchup between these two.
Yep.
And I'm all for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Having said that too, I think the way that you book this, the way that you set this up is their next encounter, there must be a winner. I think that's the way that you build that. Especially coming out of a draw like this, I think you can really, between that and the next matchup, you could really play off of that. But the next match, there must be a winner. And I think that could build the hype and the anticipation for it.
It definitely could. Now, how do you factor in the time limits, though, into this?
So that maybe you make an exception with this match, or you find some other avenue. I mean, you can always get around the time limits if you have to. I understand that they have a kind of a hard out time, but yeah, that's something you can always kind of play with. So next up here, Karl, I think arguably the best match on the entire card here for the NWA World's Women's Championship. We had Camille versus Thunder Rosa. This is an interesting one here, Karl. I am not surprised that Thunder Rosa put on a great match. Camille really surprised me, though, because I have not seen a lot of her work. You can tell, I mean, she is still fairly green when it comes to being in the ring, but she did rather well there. She wrestled like a big girl should.
Yes.
And Thunder Rosa, I mean, she's Thunder Rosa. So, I mean, a great matchup here with these two girls. They arguably stole the show here.
It definitely was in that top tier of matches on this show. Definitely it was. Camille has always been, kind of a favorite, but not with people.
Yeah.
She does play that heel role very well, but people still want to see her work. Mm-hmm. Right, so it's a good win-win when it comes to her character in that sense. Thunder Rosa's Thunder Rosa. You ain't seen nothing Thunder Rosa. You need to look up Thunder Rosa and watch.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say about Thunder Rosa. Matchup wise, great.
Oh yeah,
great.
Absolutely fantastic. She's one of those rare ones here, Karl. As you're aware, and a lot of our viewers and listeners are aware, I'm not typically the fan of people who incorporate MMA stuff into their pro wrestling repertoire, but she is somebody who not only does it well, but makes it believable. That is the key with that, and she's absolutely fantastic. I'm sure that she's on the radar of probably the majority of most big wrestling companies out there, but I hope that she kind of stays where she's at, because I think she really thrives in that environment. I think if she were to go, especially to like a WWE, I don't see her faring well in that environment. She's somebody that she likes to kind of do her own thing and not necessarily be under the thumb of too much. When it comes to management and that kind of stuff. So I'd rather see her stay at this level, because I don't feel like it's like keeping her down. She excels so fantastic at this level, and I'm sure she does very well. Probably even money-wise at this level. So why even go there when you're just killing it? She's just absolutely fantastic, man. Going from that here, Karl, to the NWA National Championship. For those who aren't aware, I'm a fan of these matches for this title, but just the title itself is just a great throwback look and feel to it. Like it's a very old fashioned looking wrestling belt, and it's absolutely fantastic. Go online and look if you want to see what it looks like. Trevor Murdoch versus Chris Adonis, which people may be more familiar with him as Chris Masters from the WWE, and these two guys are very, very familiar with each other. I was a fan of this match here, Karl. My only kind of issues, again, just to kind of bring up that I'm somebody who really looks at some of the finer kind of details. I like Adonis, but some of his stuff in the ring is a little kind of questionable sometimes. I think when he takes some moves and whatnot, you can tell like he's like adjusting his hair and his trunks when he's on the mat. Like he just took like a devastating move, and then you're like adjusting. For me, it takes me a little bit out of it. But I thought both guys did great. I'm a fan of Trevor Murdoch. I know a lot of people aren't, but I like his old school approach to wrestling, largely because he was trained by Harley Race, right? And you could tell that a lot of that has carried over into this man. I'm a fan of his. Chris, I like his matches, but I think that he needs to maybe just sell a little bit more. You need to, like, if you're taking a big move, you shouldn't be checking to make sure your hair and your trunks are still good. You stay down, just don't move.
Yeah.
But again, that's a nitpick from somebody who's kind of looks at the technical aspects. But again, great match. I love this championship, and I love the matches typically for it.
I definitely do too, and I like that the national championship seems to be one that gets kind of passed along.
Yes.
Frequently.
Yeah.
Not super frequently, but enough that it really puts a spotlight onto that championship, because you're really wondering who's going to hold that next, who's going to be that next person.
Exactly.
Whereas other companies will have the same champion for a year and a half, and you just kind of get bored of the same person having the title all the time. But this one here, I'm thinking they're doing things pretty well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Again, I like what they do with that championship, but I'm definitely on the same wavelength as you on that one. Going from that, Karl, one thing to make note of here, too. We're arguably spending more time talking about these matches individually than some of the matches went length time-wise. Just to kind of break it down a little bit for everybody here. The first match, just under 6 minutes. Tyrus and Kratos went just under 8 minutes. Burke and Latimer went just over 10 minutes. Thunder Rosa and Camille, about 14 minutes. And then Murdoch and Adonis under 9 minutes. So interesting when you look at especially a lot of other matches out there. So for the main event for the evening here, Karl, for the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship, I want to make note of that because another nitpick that I have possibly with the show, and you maybe feel the same way, their ring announcer that they used for this show, I thought dropped the ball a little bit. Not only in this match, not calling it the World's Heavyweight Championship, that really stood out for me, but just the way that when he introduced people, like the way that he ordered his, the way that the words were kind of ordered was really odd. Like he mentioned Nick first, and then like his weight, and then like it was weird the way that he lined things up. Like it just didn't. You could tell maybe he's maybe a little inexperienced, and that's something that I kind of picked up on. But so I wasn't necessarily a fan of that, but I thought they still did okay. And again, he's somebody that can do well with time, but just it was something that was a little strange for me. I thought the guy that they used, you can tell maybe he was maybe a little bit on the new side.
No, he's not.
No, really?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I didn't pick up on that at all.
Okay,
and
I definitely did.
I always listen for them to say Worlds.
Yeah.
And I don't remember him not saying Worlds.
Okay.
Heavyweight champion. I might have to go back and rewatch just to make sure. But
the way he introduced Nick was the way that the words were set up. It was a little odd. Like things were like out of order. But again, that's just a bit of a nitpick on my side. So.
I didn't catch that. So
okay.
Like I said, I might have to go back and rewatch that just to take a look. I do want to mention though super quick though that I don't know if you picked up on this, but they're actually calling the women's championship the NWA World's Women's Championship.
That I picked up on for sure.
So yeah, like that's a subtle change that really just happened, because before it was always just the NWA Women's Championship. I love that they're now calling it the World's Women's Championship.
Absolutely. So yeah, Nick Aldis versus Aaron Stevens. I mean, like we mentioned at the top here, a lot of emotional investment going into this from both guys, and just a fantastic match. I mean, we could sit here and break down the moves, but we don't really need to at this point. It was absolutely just a great NWA World's Heavyweight Championship match. It was absolutely fantastic. I will say that I do, coming out of this, I have potentially a bit of an unpopular opinion here, Karl. And it's not necessarily what people might be thinking. Just given that this was a tribute show, and with Aaron Stevens being so tight with Joseph here, I think we missed an opportunity to actually put the title on Aaron Stevens here. I think that we should have had a title change. I think that would have created even more of an emotional reaction here to put the title on him and then really kind of put him over the top. I feel a little bit of a missed opportunity, but by no means am I disappointed with the match. I think they did absolutely fantastic, and I'm okay with Nick winning. but I thought we could have gone a little bit further and actually have done a title change in this particular scenario, given that this was a tribute to Joseph.
I like the fact that they didn't put the title on.
See, we have a different
Aaron
opinion.
Stevens.
Yep.
Yeah, I 100%, because that would have taken away from the whole point of the show was for Joseph. So now Aaron Stevens wins this championship. Now the internet's all talking about Aaron Stevens is the one that took out Nick Aldis's 884-day title reign, whereas no, the focus needs to be a tribute show. Not a title change show, a tribute show. Not a record-breaking, streak-ending title reign show, but a tribute show. So I'm happy that it didn't change hands, because they were still able to keep it that tribute to Joseph Hudson.
Well, if he would have dedicated the win to him, I think you could have made it work potentially. But again,
I think that would have been very short-lived. Yeah. It would have been, oh, yeah, okay, he did it for Joseph. Okay, but do you know that he did this and this and this, and he beat this record, and he, right? Like, that's what it would have turned into, as opposed to, you know, that's how I see it. I could be wrong, but that's how I saw it.
Hey, the fact that we have a different opinion, I think is great. People get to see the different aspects of this, and for anybody watching, which would you prefer? Did you like Nick winning, or did you kind of like me would have liked to potentially see a title change? Because I mean, I could definitely see your viewpoint as well, and it's definitely valid as well. I'm not saying that your opinion is wrong or that mine is necessarily right. We're just I'm
saying yours is wrong and mine is right.
Different opinions. So. You're wrong, damn it. No, just kidding. But overall, Karl, I mean, just a great show, and time-wise too. Just under the 2 hours. Perfect.
And what they continued to do afterwards.
Yes.
I will say, with all legitimacy, I cried like a freaking baby.
You made a great point, and I'm glad you mentioned it here, Karl. I'll let you go, and then I got something to say about it too.
Oh my goodness!
Because I thought they did something that was genius and actually ties into the name of our episode too. But continue.
So the show ends, and Nick goes over and gets Aaron and like tells him to get up, and they shake hands, and Nick backs away as Aaron is holding the question mark mask. And then he goes to the center of the ring, and he's holding this mask, and you can see the emotion, and it flowed. I'm even getting emotional right now just remembering it. And then he just looks up and he goes, "This was for you."
Yep.
And then I believe that was his wife that came into the ring with the big question mark flag. Yep. And then the roster that was there all came out into the ring.
Yep.
Wow. Like,
and what was very clever
so
too.
Raw and real. And it just, it hit me. It definitely did. I cried like a baby. 100% I did.
And what made it really work too on a real traditional professional wrestling level too, Karl, is given that it was a tribute and whatnot, is that we largely only saw the baby face side of the roster. We didn't see the heels coming out, which is, again, something that the casual or just the just regular fans out there won't necessarily pick up on. But as somebody who has been, over 30-something years, we've been following this freaking business, that I see something like that, and I'm just going, okay, whoever was in charge of this segment understands professional wrestling. They understand it was a tribute, so you don't want to have your bad guys out there doing a tribute. Like it was perfect. The segment tugged at the heartstrings and accomplished what it wanted to, but they just lump everybody out there, because then it would ruin the context of the entire show. Fantastic. I love it.
Yeah, me too.
So, and
me too.
And again, just to kind of to bring it back full circle, I thought a really good and fitting tribute to Joseph. I mean, who was somebody I think deserves more notoriety than Nick worded it very well. When you can, and again, this is a very old school aspect that I want to make sure and touch on. I know we're going a little bit long on this topic, but I really want to emphasize this point, because Nick really emphasized this at the beginning, and I totally 100% agree. When you can accomplish the feat of getting the fans to legitimately cheer and pull for you. That is a rare thing in this business here, Karl.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that Nick mentioned this, because a lot of times it feels kind of forced, especially in the WWE side of things. When you can, just by who you are and what you do in that ring, character-wise and wrestling-wise, to get fans to legitimately be behind you, that is something special. And he accomplished that in that company.
And it no matter if he was working as Josephus, or if he was the guy who got over a question mark.
Right? No. Right.
The guy took a question mark, made a character out of a question mark,
Yep.
and it got over. Like,
Yep. That's somebody who understands understands the audience and gives them what they want. That is why they pulled for him.
yeah, definitely.
Absolutely fantastic. And I want to see more of this kind of stuff from them. So I'm really excited to see them running back on the normal. And I guess it's just a matter of what platform they're going to be on going forward.
That's right.
All right, Karl. Well, I guess before we do some, before we take a break, I guess we might as well get to our breaking news segment, right?
Sure.
Okay, let us do this. So there's actually a fair amount to cover in this segment this week, so I'll get to the few things that I want to hit on, then I'll throw it over to you. The big one that I want to hit on is we have completed the New Japan Cup tournament, and it was a little exhausting to get through it all, especially the way that I chose to kind of do it. Basically crammed this entire tournament to a couple of days of viewing, so a lot of caffeine was consumed while watching these shows, but overall, some really great stuff here, highlighted by a couple of matches I really want to touch on here. Will Ospreay and Zack Sabre Jr. was absolutely fantastic. We saw essentially Ospreay get his nose potentially kind of broken, and they actually carried that over into some of the other matches. Very clever storyline work done there with those guys. Minoru Suzuki versus Kenta was another match that I highlighted. Excuse me, that people need to check out. These are just two guys just beating the piss out of each other. Absolutely fantastic and amazing. And arguably the upset of the entire tournament, or the upset of the year in New Japan Pro Wrestling, we had a David Finlay beating Jay White in the quarterfinals. I mean, I was just floored that they decided to go that direction, but it made sense in the context of what they did later. And we ended up with a final match between Shingo Takagi and Will Ospreay, and we had Ospreay taking that victory, and not what I was expecting. Both myself and Mr. Michael Jargo Run Destino had both picked Shingo to win this tournament, but wow, it was quite the match, and I was definitely surprised with the victory. But again, it's Shingo still getting over in a loss. I mean, that guy's absolutely killing it over in that promotion right now. If you guys want to go check this out, I mean, it's all still available on New Japan World. Their subscription service is very reasonable, and there's a ton of great content out there for you guys to check out. So that's the main piece of breaking news I wanted to get to. Karl, what do you got?
Breaking news that I've got is, if you're following us on our social media, especially our Facebook page at TB Talk Pod, which is also the same handle for our Instagram and Twitter, you will know that there was a release that happened.
Big one.
Andrade was granted his release. Now, he is happy about it, and he has gone on the record in a tweet since he was given his release, saying, "Happy life, happy wife. I am happy, she is happy."
Yeah.
And they're still together. Everything's all cool in that aspect. Just he isn't working for the WWE anymore. Very big, something that we kind of touched on a little bit before on our past episode with Andrade requesting, and the WWE essentially at that time had denied it. But now, for whatever reason, which hasn't come to light as of yet, but they have allowed that release. We talked a little bit about, WrestleMania season and this pay-per-view that just happened. If you haven't seen the pay-per-view, go and watch it. One of my favorite things coming out of it was The Fiend has returned. So WWE went and did an intergender match, which is something that they haven't really done since the Attitude Era with China, pretty much. But we had Randy Orton versus Alexa Bliss, and I was super happy with this entire thing. Go and watch it. It was just so well done in my opinion. Others are gonna crap all over it, which people have been. I've been seeing online that people have been crapping all over it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the little bit of comedic aspect to it, and I enjoyed the little bit of serious and fun and work that all went into it. But The Fiend has come back. So new mask, looking all charred up. There we go.
That's what made it work. I just want to comment just briefly on that before you move on to your next thing. That's what made that segment work. If they would have just brought him back as the regular Fiend, they would have compromised the story, because you literally murdered him in that ring. So you had to keep it in the context of that supernatural to not compromise the story. So they did that. So I will give them props for that. They've advanced things correctly.
And they definitely did do like supernatural stuff in this matchup, which I was okay with, because it's something a little bit different. It gave kind of just that little bit of a, I can just sit back and relax for a couple of minutes while this is happening. So I was happy with that. Earlier reported, and I'm going to touch on this now in a breaking news. I know that we said that maybe we would talk about this, but I want to talk about it anyways. Batista, Dave Batista, his page from the WWE Hall of Fame lineup has been removed from the website. It is inaccessible as of right now. The Hall of Fame logo is even gone from his profile on WWE.com. Absolutely everything having to do with Hall of Fame and Batista is essentially wiped away. Why? We're going to keep up on this and find out why. And when we get more information on this, make sure that you're checking out at TB Talk Pod on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, because that's where we'll be posting it.
The speculation that I've seen from a lot of places are that he's working on a movie. Very, I guess, similar to Charlotte, why she's absent from WrestleMania, is that she's apparently working on a movie as well. So that's the speculation that I'm seeing. Speculations and stuff have been like all over the place. Like something else is kind of going on behind the scenes, or there's some heat. Can't speak on that whatsoever because I don't have any information. But yeah, they went from him being the headliner to him not being the headliner, and there's even rumors that Daniel Bryan was potentially going to get inducted, and that's apparently been shot down. So all stuff, it's all over the place.
Yeah, it definitely is. Definitely is. So yeah, just a little bit of interesting notes and piece there. But
for sure.
We will definitely continue to follow that. And when we get more info, we'll put it onto our social media pages for you.
For sure, because what they're doing for the Hall of Fame, just to make note of so people are aware too, is that they're actually doing last year's inductions and this for 2021 as well. So it's basically like a double class where they're doing, which is obviously a first.
Yes,
for the WWE. So interesting to see how that will kind of go. I guess that's about it for breaking news. Unless you got anything else.
I do not.
All right, cool. Let us get then to our match of the week. All right, so for match of the week here, mine is maybe not as straightforward as I was originally thinking, because I actually am still as we're doing this segment a little torn between a couple matches, because I'm thinking of picking something from the New Japan Cup or from this NWA show. So on the fly here, I'm going to pick from the NWA Back for the Attack show. The matchup with Nick Aldis and Aaron Stevens for the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship is going to be my matchup for this week. Just given the emotional investment going into the show and coming out of it, I thought that they just nailed it. Like I said, I would have liked to see a different winner, but again, that didn't take anything away from it for me personally. Absolutely fantastic. And then if people haven't had a chance to check out this show, you're doing yourself a disservice by not. It's, as Karl, I believe you mentioned it on the air here, I mean, $20 to watch on Fight TV. I mean, that's cheap for a wrestling show, and definitely worth your time and your hard-earned money.
It definitely is. My match of the week, same. Like legitimately same. Even after watching both of those pay-per-views and watching a little bit of other stuff throughout the week, that matchup just gripped me entirely. It's got to be my match of the week.
Yep. Absolutely fantastic, man. And hopefully that I'm even hoping maybe they'll maybe not the entire show, but maybe this particular match, put it for free on YouTube so people can actually go in and enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah, just that matchup.
Just an idea.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Let us take a brief break here and hear from our friends over at collarandelbowbrand.com, and then we'll be back with our Showstopper segment.
Wrestling. A love and a passion we all share. I've started a wrestling brand. The wrestling brand. A brand founded on the aspects of wrestling. Two entities working together to create a product that connect emotionally for people everywhere. Collar and Elbow is the brand. Passion and love for wrestling is the drive. I am Al Snow, and this is Collar and Elbow, the wrestling brand.
The dictionary defines hero as a person who is admired or idealized for courage, outstanding achievements, or noble qualities. Being a hero in life is far more than words printed on a page. It takes an unwavering code, a compass that points true north always. And in times like these, it takes sacrifice. Hero shouldn't be a word defined by a dictionary. It's a word that should be defined by the best of us. Hero has a new definition.
All right, guys, Mighty Joe and Karufel back here on Turnbuckle Talk. And as you heard from our friends over at collarandelbowbrand.com, use our promo code JK Podcast. You can get 10% off your entire order over at their checkout. And as always, just great stuff over there. And as usual, Karl has his collar and elbow hat on there. And for those who are paying attention as well, Karl's actually wearing, outside of this, he's wearing an NWA shirt, which I thought was pretty cool. Before we started recording here, I saw that. So.
Oh, yes. I've always loved the NWA since years and years and years ago. Just a great company, and I'm glad that it's still striving and surviving.
Yes, absolutely. All right, guys, let's get to our Showstopper segment. All right, so for this week's Showstopper segment, I thought we would kind of revisit a topic, because I'm sure, I mean, I didn't go through all of our episodes, all 210 or 11, 211 episodes that we've done over all this time, but I'm sure that we've touched on this in one. That's why I kind of worded it as kind of revisiting it. And this stemmed largely from, and this is another great thing with doing podcasting and doing it with other people, is that you get to see kind of these opinions. And this is stemming largely from my discussion with Michael Jargo over on Destino, and we kind of ventured slightly off of New Japan and talking about WWE and how specifically we're talking about Roman Reigns, that people are almost kind of like praising his work of being a bad guy when we should be actually hating what he's doing. So essentially what I'm getting at here is, for professional wrestling to be truly entertaining, be really successful, I feel that we should have a clearly defined good guy and bad guy. Now, I know there's different schools of thought in this. Like, I know over on the AEW side of things, they just feel like everybody's just a competitor and that things are just kind of what they are. I'm very much of the mindset of we need to have a clearly defined good and bad competitor in a match for it to truly work, to not only get the talent over, but to get storylines over. When things are kind of in the gray zone, it can sometimes work, but in the bigger scope of things, we need to have good guys and we need to have villains. What do you think, Karl?
for the gray zone, you really have to be that badass competitor to be able to be in that zone. I look at Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah, he's an example.
He's that gray zone,
Yep.
right? But he made that work. That was fantastic. Not everybody can do that. I take a look at another name, the one that's still competing right now, that I think could do that, Randy Orton.
Yep.
100% Randy Orton could be in that gray zone.
Yep.
But when it comes to, having a baby face or a heel, yes, please. You're already, so this is mainly for the WWE. You, World Wrestling Entertainment, you are already shoving down our throats who we're supposed to like, who we're not supposed to like, what we're supposed to cheer, when we're supposed to cheer, how we're supposed to cheer. You're already shoving all of that down our throats.
Yep.
Just shove down our throats as well that this person is a good guy and this person is a bad guy. Bring that back, please.
Yeah. To kind of bring this back to talking about the NWA show with Joseph Hudson, great example there of how if you just allow things to kind of organically happen and go off of your audience's reaction, it'll point you in the right direction. With Joseph, I mean, clearly the fans adored him, so you have him be one of your main good guys. I mean, eventually you could have them turn, but it's something you just need to listen to your audience, and they'll tell you, instead of, like you had mentioned here, the forcing of it on it can sometimes work, but largely your audience will turn on you when you do, especially if you take like a beloved character and then turn them. It can sometimes work, but a lot of times they will not receive it well. But that's the way I can kind of put it.
Yeah, definitely.
Right?
Definitely.
And then and then in the WWE side of things here, what can happen when we force these kind of moments? An example that I'll choose is Bayley. That was a really good, the way that they went about turning her. And I guess, given the current landscape of how things are, I mean, I understand this approach, but to turn and then to try and mask it when you realize that you've made a mistake. Like when they turned her, you had people kind of cheering. So then you could hear production like turning the volume down that and then trying to pipe in fake boos. And just to take somebody who's just not naturally inclined or good in that kind of respect to force them into that too. Not only does it not get well over the audience, the talent, it can turn the talent off as well and make them jaded and make them want to leave to get a little extreme, right? So not only can you piss off your audience, but you can piss off your talent by forcing things as well. That's another aspect of this I wanted to touch on.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely would turn a lot of people off. I mean, I don't want fake booze. I want 100 proof booze.
Right.
Okay. Like, give me the straight booze.
Yep.
Make it clear. Make it defined. That's what you need to do. Yep. If you're going through and rolling with it, and you, let's say, with the Bayley situation, okay, so people were excited. Fine, we're getting a heel Bayley. This is cool. Well, let them cheer for a few. Let them cheer for 3 or 4 shows that happen.
Yep. Because
then Bayley now has to do her job and make these people hate her. Mm-hmm. That's the role of a heel. The heel is the bad guy. Mm-hmm. The heel is the one who is supposed to make you hate them.
Exactly.
So Bayley could have done that. Yeah. I think she really could have. But instead, the WWE, like you said, people were cheering it, which of course they're going to. Mm-hmm. And then they turn that down and pipe in the negative from the soundboard.
Yeah.
Really?
It doesn't sound good either. Another aspect of this that I want to touch on here, Karl, and this is something that I guess will apply to more people like us, or people who are friends with professional wrestlers, and specifically, Karl, people who are friends, like personal friends, and go to the shows of heel wrestlers. This is something I definitely want to touch on here, Karl. People who are friends with bad wrestlers who go to the shows and cheer their friends on. this is something that I want to make sure and mention here. You're actually doing your friend a tremendous disservice by cheering them on. And a lot of them will actually get very vocal. This is something that and I don't particularly make reference to this person very much, but I will, because over on the Humming Media Group, the big cheese over there, Mr. Ben Hameen, this is something that he always harps on all the time, is that if you're a friend of mine, you need to be booing me in that crowd, because if you're over there cheering me, not only are you're taking away from the atmosphere, you're actually detracting from what I'm trying to accomplish, right? So if you're a friend with a heel wrestler, you better damn well be booing them on, because you need to you need to do the right thing, play along, be part of the crowd. Just because they're your friend, I know it sounds like a bit of a weird thing maybe to some people, but it's just odd when you have people cheering bad guys. It's something that drives me just crazy, man. So
you see, I thankfully had the best of both worlds when it comes to that, because I'm on a border city, so I would wrestle in Canada, and I wrestled in the United States. I was known as the extreme Canadian Karl Karufel. In Canada, I was a babyface. In the United States,
you're a bad guy.
I was a heel. So my friends loved it because they were able to do both. They were able to go and boo me while I was in the US and then cheer me when we were in Canada. And they thought that it was the greatest frickin' thing in the world, that I get to go and boo and make fun of my friend and it not mean anything, right? Like, I can just go and I can just bullshit around and just really harp on him, and there's nothing he can do about it, type of thing, right? So I had the best of both worlds when it comes to that, but you were at 100% correct. Ben Hameen is a genius in the business, and if he's telling you something, you need to listen to Ben Hameen, okay? Yes, he is right. If you are friends with a heel professional wrestler, boo the hell out of them.
Boo earns.
Do it. Do it.
Yes.
Do it.
Just do it.
When are you ever going to get a chance to throw negativity and shade towards your friend?
And it not be taken the wrong way, right?
And exactly, and it not be taken wrong. This is the time for you to do it. And anyone out there that has that little bit in the back of their mind going, you know what, I kind of really am pissed off at this person right now. There's your opportunity. Go to the wrestling show while your friend is playing a heel role. Get all of that anger and frustration out, and then go have a beer with your best friend afterwards. It's simple. It's simple. Bad guy, boo them. Good guy, cheer them.
Right. And to kind of bring this full circle back to one of our main topics this week with the NWA show, at the end of the show, we saw when we were doing that main tribute aspect at the end, we didn't see the bad guys coming out into that. I mean, even at independent shows, like the really, really good bad guys and heels aren't going to be at the merch table signing autographs for the fans. What? They're not there to pander to you. They're there to get you to hate them. Not there to sign your autographs. Screw you and your autographs, right? Or if they are going to do that, they're going to do it in a very heelish way, like MJF has been known to do and whatnot. Yes. And right, so there's different ways to approach it. But again, to kind of wrap up the topic here, Karl, I love professional wrestling when we have clearly defined villains and heroes. When it gets kind of gray, it really can only work with a very select few number of people, and not everybody can pull it off. Like you mentioned, Stone Cold, one of the very few that can successfully do it. Almost kind of like an anti-hero way of, I think is probably the best way to kind of put it.
Stone Cold Steve Austin is the original Deadpool.
Yes, that's actually not a bad way to put it. All right, man. Well, I guess that about wraps up here for this week. But before we go, I'll let you get your plugs in, and then I will give people a little preview of what we're doing with our other show this week.
Definitely sounds good. As always, make sure, I've mentioned it already on this show, follow us. Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at TB Talk Pod. The majority of stuff, I run all the social media, as well as I have my gimmick job that I do during, the night shifts and sometimes the day shifts, plus this podcast, plus another podcast, plus trying to catch up on everything else, plus kids, plus work. Plus, it's a lot. And you know, I tried my best to make sure that the social media is up to par. And if it isn't, I'm sorry, but I'm trying. So make sure you go and check us out on our social media pages, though, at TB Talk Pod, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. The majority of the stuff that goes out goes to the Facebook page, and I try from there to share it out to the Twitter feed as well as the Instagram feed to where photos are applicable for Instagram. Make sure you check us out there. We talked about Collar and Elbow Brand. I will touch on them super quick and briefly here. collarandelbowbrand.com. I want to say thank you to those who have made purchases and those who will make purchases after you go and check out, yes, a new drop from Collar and Elbow Brand just happened this past week. If you're on our social media, you would have seen the photos and the new merchandise. Go and check them out. I am loving some of the new shirts that they have there. Add them to your cart. Go all the way through. When you're getting to the payment section, it gives you discount code inside that area. JK Podcast. You get 10% off that entire order. And it gives us a little bit of a kickback, too, to help us continue to pay for everything that we're paying for to bring you these video casts and being able to put it out in audio podcast form. You into working out? You need some supplements? Check out our friends at Phoenix over at fnxfit.com. They got some great supplements over there. We have a promo code, too, for them. We're looking TB Talk Pod. You're going to get 15% off your entire order at fnxfit.com.
All right, and for our Turnbuckle Rewind episode this week here, we have one of Karl's picks here this week, and this was one that caught me off guard in a good way because I was a big fan of this promotion during this time period. We're going back to 1997 with some WCW. We're talking the Outsiders versus the Steiner Brothers. I actually don't recall seeing this match before, so this is actually going to be my first time looking at this match and kind of break it down. So I'm looking forward to this because actually this is the first time that we're covering a match that I haven't seen before. So I'm looking forward to it coming in fresh. But again, I loved the WCW during this time period, so I'm really looking forward to look at this match because this was a fun time during that company. So looking forward to it.
It definitely was. And I chose this one because it was a tag team match. We haven't touched on any tag team matches yet, and I wanted to make sure that we got in a good, solid tag team match. And who better than the Outsiders and the Steiners?
Yeah,
like two of the greatest teams to work together inside that ring. Dude, you're gonna be happy.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, typically if there's a match involving Scott Steiner, especially if he can have a microphone in his hand, I'm likely to be entertained, for better or for worse. So definitely looking forward to that, man. All right, well, like I said, about wraps up here for this week. We'll see you guys on the next one.
It's me. It's an honor to be the beat. As you can tell in the background, we are out celebrating. That is what we do here at hittingthemarks.com. And I invite everyone to continue to tune in to Turnbuckle Talk, but check out all of our other shows. We have weekly content, especially lit up by the flagship show. You can find that all at hittingthemarks.com.
Run.